right. Well, welcome, Ellis County, to another episode of Keeping It Real with Kent. This will be episode 2. I've got my dear friend Brian Burds in from El Paso to help us kind of understand the market as it gets better out there. We are here at Casera Winery having a really great time. If you haven't been to Ovilla, you need to come out and stop by and see our friend John here. He has got a wonderful setup going on. So think about that next time you drive through Ovilla. So we'll talk a little bit about the market today. You know, here in Ellis County, we're running about average sales price of about $275 throughout the whole county. And our houses are selling fast. You know, they're going some of them within 24 hours of the time they're listed. And I think everybody has some belief that that's what happens everywhere in the world. Now, we know the market's good, and we know the market's doing well in Texas everywhere. But I was going to sit with Brian and ask him a few questions about what do you see the difference in El Paso versus Ellis County?
Well, I would say the difference is kind of the difference of what the market looks like from previous years to today, right? So we are oftentimes focused around the national culture, the national media use headlines, right? They use terms like the market is slowing, the market is starting to calm down. But the thing is that calm down is only coming down to a factor where we're still well above where we may have been in 2019. Difference between Ellis County and El Paso County is that we are always about 8 to 10 months behind the rest of Texas. And because of that, we aren't feeling the same slowdown that you may be feeling. And that's where we are starting to see just that peak of the market. So that is definitely different. And that's because most of our jobs are insulated with government base. And therefore, we're not going to have the same effect that the jobs placement will push down. But that also means that our average price point is sitting closer to the range of about 200 instead of the 270 that you're at.
Outstanding. Well, you know, so what do you think really makes you stay that 8 months behind? Do you think
we're the wicked stepchild of Texas? We always get the last thing when it comes to TxDOT. We get the last stuff for everything. I think that Texas would be okay with letting El Paso go to New Mexico, and New Mexico would be perfectly happy with having us. So the answer is we are the only city in the state of Texas on mountain time. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But something is weird that it does take a while to translate. And what I think it comes down to is we're the last frontier, right? People moving from California, people moving from Florida, people moving from other states into Texas. The sexy places are Dallas, Houston, right? San Antonio, Austin. Right. I should probably put Austin there first because that's the sexiest place to go. But El Paso is kind of that remnant that they find out about it after the effect because we still, we're not a one church town. We have a metropolitan area of give or take about 1.5 million when you get down to numbers. Yeah. So,
that was amazing to me when the first time I came out to visit you is how big El Paso was. I had something in my mind that said it's not, and it was a shocker to me when I actually went out there. And it's interesting how the properties themselves are so much different. Like, I was thinking in my head, I'm thinking you're kind of like Ellis County, where we have, farm and ranch, and we have, we have the land developments and different things like that, and it's just not the same there.
Correct. So El Paso is the only city in the state of Texas that outpaces its build permits compared to birth rates. I didn't know this was a statistic that they tracked, but El Paso is the only city in Texas that does that. So what that tells you is two things. One, we are a lot more metropolitan than expected. Right. We are landlocked in a lot of ways because you can't move into New Mexico and you are moving into raw desert otherwise. And we have Fort Bliss that literally sticks right in between us. So it has a very dramatic effect in our population mixed in with the fact that we are a border city, bordering Juarez, and that is a 2.2 million metroplex that's just to the south. Wow. So we are moving towards the direction of Horizon City, which is very interesting. But given Midlothian, we've come down here many a time, and Midlothian has Ellis County in general has a different concept that it's much more rural-based, suburban-based in a lot of effects, where you have a very big metroplex just 20 minutes north.
Wow. So appreciate that very much. Let's take a quick break and get a word from our sponsor.
English Kurth with the Better Together Realty Group. We are powered by eXp, and we are your local experts. We are right here in Ellis County. Our office is in Midlothian, and we are here to serve you with all of your real estate needs. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or maybe an empty nester or anywhere in between, we can help you with the purchase and the sale of any property. And we also help investors grow their portfolios as well as manage their properties for them. So we are truly full-service real estate right here in Ellis County. We would love to help serve you or anyone that you know reach their home goals. You can reach my whole team at 972-246-8297. You can call or text that number. You can always email us at team@bettertogetherrg.com, or you can stop by our office right here in Midlothian.
Okay, so we're back with my dear friend Brian Burds from El Paso, Texas, to kind of make a comparison of what it's like here versus what it's like there in El Paso. You know, one of the things is
It's greener.
Say that
It's greener.
it's greener. It is greener here. That's for sure. Yeah, I was amazed at how much desert. I was really amazed, and we'll talk about this more. And I'm getting off subject. That the mountains run right through the middle of the town. That was I didn't know that. But you know, the thing I like about Ellis County is we're just outside of Dallas County. We're just outside of Tarrant County. You know, some of the Midlothian's one of the towns. Waxahachie's one of the towns where you're in a little better tax bracket here, because of the fact that we're not paying transit taxes and different things that you have to pay in the more metropolitan areas. But I can be anywhere in 30 minutes. You know? So how does that compare for El Paso? Is it
Well, so a lot of that comes down to I've really kind of really enjoy coming to Midlothian just because it kind of gives me an idea that you can be this close to a metroplex and still enjoy the I don't know if the word is country or just the the open spread of things. You know, in El Paso we are not heavily laden with trees. We are a desert climate. We have no inclement weather whatsoever, which has its benefits, right? Our insurance rates are super low. But concerning the tax rate, that's really interesting to kind of think of that fashion. Is that property taxes in the state of Texas scare people. Right. Especially when you come from states where that is not as heavy, because they pay an income tax. Just talking about it sometimes does not bring relevancy to that. Right. And I think that's something to really take into account. But one thing that I will say that Ellis County has going for it is that it has that easy access. You know, I can be from your office to the airport in 26 minutes, right? Which gives me the ability to not have to worry about that metro mentality, but then gives me a great opportunity. So I think it's kind of I think you call yourself the Southern Star, right? So it gives me that ability that, Frisco's sexy and all these other places, that Austin mentality, right? It's sexy, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's better. It just means it's been more publicized. And that's the same concept we were talking about a moment ago. Why is El Paso so behind the times? Because we're not as sexy, right? But at the end of the day, we have a very low rate of people moving out of town. We have a very consistent rate of appreciation. And I think you have a lot of those same tactics. Absolutely. You don't lose like some of the other places in the Dallas metro area, where they'll lose value when markets go down because you're consistent. This is oftentimes because of school districts. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, and that's a big thing in all of Ellis County is that we turn in really good ratings with our schools, which draws people.
And in our game of real estate, schools are the measuring tool to identify what appreciation rates should be sitting at. Because if a person trusts putting their kids in a school that is good, that has a ton of relevance.
Yeah, and I can tell you, most of you know me that are out there listening, but I've been here for 58 years, and the change in what's happened over just in school facilities is beyond comprehension. I mean, it's just unbelievable how much money and how much time and how much effort has gone into developing that school district to be able to get those ratings, to be able to get that. I was talking to one of our school board members the other day, and they were talking about doing a tax increase and a bond election and things like that. And I said, my guys, you don't have to do a tax increase. Every month for the last 4 years, Ellis County has either grown by 0.1% to 0.5% in value in every property here. Then when you get into more the bigger towns, Waxahachie, Midlothian, Red Oak, it's gone from over 0.5% to 1 full percent every month for 48 straight months.
And that's the scary part, right? is this going to affect that end price? And will this market slow? Will this market dwindle? And I think that's where people need to realize that it's not.
Right.
There is so much equity built into the homes today that people they're not doing what they did in 2007. They're not over leveraging themselves. They're well in a range where they can stay consistent and not have any issues. So I think that, yes, people that are on the fence on the market right now, don't be on the fence. Interest rates are at phenomenal lows. Rental rates are phenomenal highs. Sales prices are consistently going up. It is the point that even if we had a small reduction in value today, based on what the interest rates are expected to be, you would still be paying less monthly if you bought today, even at a slight premium.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think people don't realize that too. As real estate agents, and the things we do out there is, people are always looking at what is the price of the home. But in the reality of it is, it's how much can you pay a month.
Correct.
And I think people get way too hung up, especially buyers. They get way too hung up in what it is instead of figuring out what it is that they want and how much they can afford to go for it. I mean, how do you address that?
The same way that I address square footage. Okay, think about it this way. Every buyer that walks into our door wants a square footage. I've been in real estate for 16 years. I have a general idea, but I couldn't nail down a square footage if I wanted to, of any room, mind you, without taking a measuring tape and figuring out what that was. So oftentimes we are concerned with something that we probably shouldn't be concerned with. Now, granted, sales price, be careful. You don't want to overpay, but there are things and tools and resources in the transaction that limit from you overpaying. And to be honest, a market is defined by 3 people. If 3 people are willing to pay that price, guess what? That's the new market price. So that defines it.
Yeah,
so,
explain that in a little more detail, what you mean by 3.
Yeah, so it's the rule of 3. That's what I've always heard, and that's what I've always kind of resonated around, that if 3 people are willing to do something, it becomes and defines a market, we tend to fall into the category that appraisers set the tone of the market, and that is not the scenario. It is the 3 people that are interested in said property that define the market. The problem is that we are restricted by lenders, and lenders use the appraisal value to define it. Well, the truth is that, well, guess what? Cash is king in that circumstance, because cash oftentimes does not care about that appraisal. And the moment that sales price closes at a premium rate, it sets the market. We're in a new construction represented right now, and we have a bunch of deals that are having trouble with appraisals. But we have a cash deal closing this week. That's going to set the tone for the entire subdivision on price per square foot. So.
That's awesome. Guys, we'll be right back right after this message.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Bush with Mid-America Mortgage Southwest here in Midlothian. Whether you are purchasing a home or refinancing, we are here to help you every step of the way. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or you've done the purchasing process multiple times before, we treat our customers like family here at Mid-America Mortgage Southwest, and we will walk you through every step of the way to make this transaction as smooth as possible. You can reach me at 214-598-7839 or send an email to kbush@mamsw.com.
So we're back here with Brian Burds once again out at the lovely Casera Winery. So hopefully you guys get the opportunity to come back out and hang
it's
out.
It's early,
with us.
so we're not testing that yet, but we will test it later.
We're going to make sure. We feel like it's our duty to make sure that all the wine is the way it should be. And we know it is because John's the best. But now let's talk a little bit about appraisals and how appraisals affect the purchase of the home. We're in a deal. We're out there selling and buying, and we go down this road with the lender, and the lender says, "Hey, the appraisal just came back."
Correct. That is a terrifying statement. Appraisers, so we have a fairly large transactional base, but appraisers are the bane of my existence. And I have to preface this by the fact that my future brother-in-law is an appraiser. But that is based on the fact that you have to be very cautious with the understanding that an appraiser has to prove a concept. And he has to do this in numbers. Okay, so the fact that we got 20 offers on a house does not define the market. The fact that we got 20 offers on a house, we're going to need to look at it and review it appropriately, because the appraiser can come through and change that dynamic. Meaning, FHA has its own standards. VA has its own standards. Conventional has multiple of its own standards because, I have a degree in finance, and I learned this a long time ago that loans are sold off to other organizations.
Right.
To fit in a package of investment, it requires that it fits certain criteria, right? Which means that the appraiser is that diligent force to look at those terms, okay? What this simply means to the general public is that an appraiser is looking at raw numbers and is not paying attention to a lot of the aesthetic value that real estate agents pay attention to, right? Because they're concerned that if they give too much value for aesthetics, they may lose their license because they have to justify, right? And the view of a house for you and the view of a house for me may be different, and that makes it a non-definable number, right? There's no secret sauce for this view is worth 15 and that one is worth nothing, right? And VA gets even more questionable on this because in VA and FHA's mind, a house that faces a dump and a house that faces a beautiful view really should not be that off on value if they're identical homes. This is concerning.
Yeah, I agree at 100%. So the appraisal comes back in and you're sitting with your client and it's 20 grand below.
Correct. And this is why you have to have the right real estate professional throughout the process, because if you don't have that conversation that it will come up, you should. And you should understand that an appraisal will be a headache down the line if we get those high offers. We heard today that a person got 98 offers on a home. Well, guess what? 98 offers means excess of money over appraisal price, right? So if your real estate professional is conscious on what they're doing, they will do things like appraisal waivers, partial appraisal waivers. These are all things that they need to be well versed in, and this is what makes the difference and defines the difference of a good real estate agent and a bad real estate agent. Right?
So as an agent that's worked in a pretty big market and done a lot of transactions, how would you recommend to somebody to make that decision on who they're going to use?
Absolutely. So one, do your research. Don't necessarily go, I have a standing rule that I don't sell or buy homes for family members. I will assist them through the transaction, but I will not represent them directly because when you're dealing with family, oftentimes you run into the habit of getting yourself in trouble. Right. So do your due diligence in finding the real estate agent, and don't just necessarily go to your aunt or your uncle or your brother or your sister or anybody else that is related because they're in real estate. If they're in real estate, check their credentials, check who they are, check what they've done. Because if you don't have that knowledge, you can get yourself in trouble. The other thing is have a set of questions. There's a lot of people out there that have defined this. If you just type in, what questions should I ask my real estate agent? There's probably going to be a good number of lists. I relate to a Dave Ramsey principle. I like Dave. I think a lot of things that he represents are good. But he is also boilerplate. So he gives some great questions that you can ask every real estate agent to know if that actually works for you.
Very interesting. Well, Brian, I appreciate you coming out with us today.
Absolutely.
Lots of great information for our friends here in Ellis County, and we'll hope to have you back again.
Of course, absolutely, and thank you.
You bet. And don't forget, Casera Winery. Welcome back, guys. We are now here with our good friend John Matthews, the owner of Casera Winery here in beautiful Oak Villa, Texas. So I'm just going to ask you a couple questions, John. First off, what made you think of a winery in Oak Villa, Texas?
Well, we've been living in the area for years and years. In 2015, we planted a vineyard. We now have over 2,000 vines of Sangiovese, Tempranillo, and Albarino. And so what better place to stay in Oak Villa and open a winery? And the support has been fantastic.
Outstanding, man. I know we love it. My wife and I spend a lot of time here, and we really appreciate what you've done. So tell us a little bit about the vineyard, because I know I've been around the wine business quite a bit, and I know a lot of times here in Texas they don't really use their grapes from here. And
we're dedicated to using Texas grapes, so we have our own grapes. We also source out of the High Plains.
Oh, good.
In order to make it Texas grapes. So our tagline is Italian tradition and Texas wine, and so we're 100% Texas wine. We want to support the Texas wine industry, but do it the old-fashioned way, right? Do it the traditional Italian way. So we make more old world wines. We don't turn a wine wine out in 3 weeks or 6 weeks.
Right.
Our wines are several years old. We age them, let them get ready for you to enjoy.
Outstanding. So I know you tend to go to lots of festivals and things like that. So what made you decide to do that?
Well, it's another way to get out there to the public, right? Down here in Ovilla, we've got 3 beautiful acres. A lot of the folks locally know us, but when we do festivals across the state, they learn about Casera Winery. They learn about Casera wine. So when they see us in wine competitions and winning international awards, it draws people here to Ovilla. I'll give you an example. We have just over 2,000 population in Ovilla. Last weekend alone, we drew over 1,000 people for our wine club weekend and concerts.
Man, outstanding. So tell us a little bit about the day at the winery, especially a weekend.
Yeah, a weekend is busy. Live music every Friday, every Saturday. During the day, Saturdays, we have lots of folks that go to wineries all over the state. They come by, they do tastings, they enjoy the outdoors, they drink a little wine, maybe have a meat and cheese board or a wood-fired pizza. Sunday, same thing. A lot of the typical wine club members from around the state come by. We get visitors from all over. We also support the University of North Texas and donate proceeds of our UNT wine to them. And so we try to be a good member of the community. During the week, we're working on the wine, finishing the wine, bottling the wine. So we touch it from grape all the way until we give it to you in that glass.
Man, well, John, I tell you what, I appreciate everything you've done out here. This is a wonderful place. You know, we've done several events here now, and that's another thing that I think people need to realize you do is you have the opportunity to
events, weddings, bridal showers, baby showers. Yeah, every weekend it's something different. But the great thing is people are enjoying wine and smiling.
You know what's fun to me is that we now have a population that it's okay to have a baby shower at a winery.
That's right. There you go.
That, right?
There you go.
So, man, I appreciate everything you've done for us, and we're looking forward to lots more years out here with you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for coming by.
You bet.